Does William Nylander actually make sense as a center in the Maple Leafs lineup? On Wednesday morning, Maple Leafs GM Brad Treliving, head coach Sheldon Keefe, and a number of players spoke to the media about the upcoming season. And one of the things that was addressed was that Sheldon Keefe and Brad Treliving put together a plan that would have William Nylander at center to start training camp. It's not going to be a one-off thing, said Sheldon Keefe. We want to give it some time, and that is an interesting thing heading into the season. Now, we obviously have seen William Nylander play at center before at some points during the regular season or the playoffs, but it was short, little tiny stints. It makes it very fascinating to see that Sheldon Keefe is electing to try William Nylander out in another role. Now, Sheldon Keefe did also say that John Tavares could at some points shift over to the wing as well. So maybe down the line, do we see a 1-2 of Matthews, Nylander, and then on the left wing of maybe the first or second line, do we see John Tavares there? That's a big question. Just speaking on the Nylander stuff a little bit, obviously, you had John Tavares say on Wednesday that William Nylander is built to play in Toronto, and John Tavares added that they love him here. It's obviously clear with the way Treliving was talking today in terms of, getting William Nylander signed that it can happen, and it seems as though, throughout the season, it's always a possibility. I don't personally see it going too far into the future where William Nylander's not signed. I could be very wrong in that, but with the way Treliving was talking today, maybe they do wait it out throughout the season just to see how Nylander plays and maybe how Nylander handles the center position. But at this point in time, I am not worried that the Maple Leafs will not get Nylander locked up. He wants to play here, Treliving, and the Maple Leafs want him here. It's a thing for both sides where they both want to be together, and I just can't see them splitting up at any point during this season or next summer. Now, that was just one of the number of things that went on today for the media day for the Maple Leafs. Obviously, there's the news that Jake Muzzin will not be participating this season due to injuries. And then we got Matt Murray, and if we do remember back to last season during the playoffs, I believe he was cleared to play, but he didn't get in because Joseph Woll. Now, at this point in time, Matt Murray is going to have a significant surgery this season, and it could put him out for some time, said Brad Treliving. There wasn't really a timeline set in stone, but it's going to be a significant surgery which will require significant rehab, Treliving said. These two injuries in particular weren't really a surprise. Obviously, Muzzin, I'm not really again surprised that he is going to be out for the rest of the season. It's an unfortunate scenario, but it was just one that following last season, it was never going to be a surprise that he would be out for this year. And in terms of Matt Murray, I mean, it's a little bit of a surprise that he's having a surgery. There wasn't obviously a lot known of the injury, and there still isn't a lot known. Treliving decided to keep it all quiet in terms of what that injury actually is, but the surprise is the surgery that he's having. I thought it was just going to be a little bit more under wraps, not really much talked about, but the fact that he's having a surgery means that there is still a potential down the line later in the season that he does make a return. Then there are the injuries of Ty Voigt and Braden Kressler, who will be Marlies. They picked up injuries at Traverse City during the Prospects tournament. Updates on their status will come later on, and Bobby McMahon has not been cleared to participate fully at the start of camp due to an injury that he had last season. Now, that's a fascinating one because as some of you may know, if you do watch the Marlies, I cover the Marlies for the last few seasons, and Bobby McMahon played in that final game of the Calder Cup playoffs when the Marlies were eliminated, as did Joseph Woll, who was sent down following the Leafs' exit of the playoffs. So that one is a little bit more interesting because maybe he tweaked something during the summertime. I'm not really too sure, but the fact that he played the final game with the Marlies last year, it's just interesting that he's still not recovered from the injury he suffered with the Maple Leafs last season. Now, though, just quickly, I want to bring up a tweet from Luke Fox, who says, based on the camp groups, this is a very early Maple Leafs lineup prediction. It has Bertuzzi with Matthews and Marner, Nyes with Tavares and Lafferty, Yarncroke with Nylander, and Domi and Noah Gregor with David Kampf and Ryan Reeves. This is particularly interesting, and a lot of people had issues with the fact that Sam Lafferty is on the second line right wing. Now, again, this is just camp groups. It's not really a Leafs lineup that is set in stone. It's obviously just a prediction. I'm not really too sure if Järnkrok would fit on that third line with William Nylander. Obviously, you know, I think Nylander is going to hit the third line center role at the beginning of the season. I think he's going to have that, but maybe you move Järnkrok to the second line in Lafferty's place, and then you really look at who's going to be the third line left winger. That's obviously still a possibility for Nick Robertson. He's a guy that could really take the spot. Obviously, maybe I was looking at Bobby McMahon to fill that role, possibly. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case anymore. But it's interesting with Nylander going to the third line of how much more exposed their right wing is in terms of talent. There isn't really much there when you have, you know, Domi there. He's, I guess you could put him on at any position really in the forward group, but it's just interesting to see when you pull Nylander out of that right wing group, how much less of talent they have. Obviously, again, Lafferty is still a good player, but is he one that could fit on the second line? I don't think so. Then you have Riley Brody, McCabe, Klingberg, Giordano, Liljegren. I mean, that's obviously, it should be a foregone conclusion that is the defense group for this upcoming season, unless there's an injury that is going to one of these players. That is what it's going to look like. And then you have Samsonov and Woll in nets. That's going to be an interesting tandem as well to see who gets the net more. Obviously, it's probably going to be Samsonov, but at the same time, it's going to be interesting to see how Joseph Woll goes in his first full NHL season, where he's actually the backup here. There's no whether or not he might get it or not. I mean, there still is that possibility with Martin Jones, but at this point in time, it seems like it's Woll's backup job to lose in the Toronto Maple Leafs opening day roster. I am curious to know, what is your opening day lineup for the Maple Leafs? Put it in the comment section down below. Give me your 4 forward lines, your 3 defense pairings, and the starter, and obviously the backup. That's going to be a big thing as we get closer and closer to the season, is, you know, seeing who makes a good impression in training camp, because that's a big possibility that, you know, guys like Noah Gregor, who's on a PTO, could have a good showing. Nick Robertson, another guy, he could have a good showing. There's plenty of players who, you know, could get into the mix and really challenge for a spot on this Maple Leafs roster. I haven't even mentioned guys like Pontus Holmberg or Alex Steeves or possibly even Nick Abruzzese. There's a number of guys who need to, you know, take the next step here, and it's going to be interesting and fascinating to see how they do in training camp and who really shows that they're ready for the next step. But yeah, let me know in the comment section down below your opening night rosters for the Maple Leafs. Do you think Nylander will last until the regular season at center? Do you think he'll go even longer? When do you think Nylander will sign? And who do you think might make a great first impression at training camp? Put it all in the comment section down below. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like. If you really enjoyed it, subscribe. It helps a lot. And we'll see you when we see you next. Whenever a video might come from me, we'll see.